We live? Live. If everybody could take their seats, please. The procession's already begun up the street. Thank you.
please join me as we pledge allegiance to the flag of the greatest nation on earth. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Good evening. I am Commissioner Kathy DiFilippo, and I'd like to introduce our clergy member giving the invocation for our 20th anniversary remembrance of 9/11. Ina Serbo Litvak is both a rabbi and cantor of the Temple Shalom in Succothsona, my hometown of Roxbury, and we met when Ina arrived about 4 years ago. She has been involved since in town. We have a vibrant interfaith council led by Reverend Carrie Morgan of the First Presbyterian Church, who unfortunately couldn't join us this evening. And Ina is a key member of the Interfaith Council. Ina has been part of every campaign to assist people devastated by COVID-19 pandemic for the past 18 months, and you will always find her at the front of our community events. Ina was born in St. Petersburg, Russia, and she has been in Morris County for over 20 years. She has served as a cantor from July 2002 through 2005 at Temple Benora. I hope I said, thank you, of Morristown. And from July 5th to July 2018, she was also professional staff at Temple Beth Am. She and her husband, Tony, who I believe is here tonight, have 2 daughters. And I'm proud to call Ina my friend and happy to have her with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Rabbi Serbo Litvak. Thank you.
Very unexpected. Wow. Thank you. Congregation may be seated.
Oh.
In the Jewish faith, God has many names because we are told that we cannot call God by his real name. We refer to God in many ways. We call him all-powerful and awesome, merciful and kind, our deliverer and protector. And so when tragedies strike, we have a hard time making sense of an all-powerful, kind, and gentle God allowing awful things to happen. After all, Isn't our loving God supposed to protect us from evil? 20 years ago, as we watched 9/11 attack in disbelief, we watched the footage of the airplanes carrying hundreds of passengers strike the Twin Towers and then saw people jumping out of the windows. So we asked ourselves, where is God? It's hard for us to pray to God for help when almost 3,000 lives were killed in a senseless attack. Yet, in the aftermath, people still went to churches, synagogues, mosques, and other houses of worship to pray. Why? Because we needed consolation. We needed to overcome the fear. We needed to choose faith in the face of devastation. I don't believe God can change the course of events, but I do believe in God. God can give strength of spirit to those of us who are left to try to grapple with the surreal reality of the 9/11 attack. As it is said in Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." And so today, we gather to remember and pray for those who have lost their lives so tragically. And we pray for those who were left to mourn the deaths of their loved ones. We ask God to bring them continuous consolation and comfort. We surround them with our prayers for strength. We implore God to bless those who have survived and heal their memories of trauma and devastation. May they continue to have the courage to face life without their loved ones. Please, God, may they know that they're not alone. There is a Jewish song based on the epigram of an 18th century rabbi, and it says, "All the world is like a very narrow bridge, and the main thing is not to be afraid."
כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד. כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד. והעיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל.
God, we ask you to renew our strength so we continue to carry on the task of making the world a safer and better place for future generations. Let us say, Amen.
And welcome. I'm Commissioner Director Stephen Shaw. I want to thank all of you on behalf of the Morris County Board of County Commissioners for joining us for our county's 20th anniversary observance of September 11th, 2001, a date America promised never forget. I want to thank all the dignitaries that are here, the public officials, and the special guests with us. There's really too many to name, but I thank you all for being here today. But most importantly, I want to thank all the first responders here, and I apologize for having my back to you, and the veterans and the members of our armed forces, and welcome the families and friends of the people we lost in the 9/11 attacks. So where were you on September 11th, 2001 at 8:46 a.m. when American Airlines Flight 11, carrying 92 people, crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center? If you were standing on this very spot where I am right now, you could see the horror as it unfolded that morning on our eastern horizon right over there. The bright, beautiful September skyline was marred by a steady plume of black smoke. What unfolded that day was an attack on the very heart of our country. It was an attack that was designed to draw fear and break the spirit of the United States. But it did not work. In fact, it was an abject failure. Our spirit prevailed. Our commitment to the ideals that founded this country grew stronger, and our commitment to one another as Americans got us through those dark days. It was on that day that America made a solemn promise to never forget. Never forget the 2,350 souls who had their lives taken from them at the World Trade Center. Never forget the 184 lost at the Pentagon. Never forget the 403 first responders who gave their lives running into the burning towers, saving countless others. Their lives weren't taken, they were given. That's what they do. Never forget the 40 passengers and crew members aboard United Flight 93 that gathered at the rear of that plane. They did a very American thing. They took a vote on the course of action they were going to take to thwart the terrorist plan to strike at our Capitol. We will forever remember the words uttered by Todd Beamer, "Let's roll." Never forget the men and women of our military who stood up, put their lives on the line in the months and years after 9/11 to protect our country and our democracy. And never forget the 64 residents of our cherished Morris County who perished that day. The events of 9/11 proved who we are and what we stand for. It proved we are not strangers. We are all mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters. We're coworkers, we're colleagues, and friends. And when history calls on us, we answer the call. Remember all the displays of American flags that appeared in our communities overnight? On houses, on cars, bridges, and on the lapels of our clothes. Remember an entire stadium of 40,000 fans standing for our national anthem and the chants of USA at the return of baseball in New York City on September 21st. And of course, you don't even have to be a Mets fan to remember Mike Piazza's home run, which opened a floodgate of cheers, tears, and signaled to many that life in America would carry on, and it did. Remember the throngs of young men and women enlisting in our military or joining the ranks of our first responders, and remember the thanks and gratitude they were afforded by a grateful public. On this, the 20th anniversary of 9/11, we remember that in both our darkest and brightest days, we are the United States of America. And for those that have fought and continue to fight for those beliefs, we thank you, we honor you, and we vow that we will never forget. Or will we? 20 years is a very long time. Today, more than a quarter of the United States population wasn't even born on 9/11. A million more were still in diapers. While my own children were well beyond diapers, they were middle school students, 6th and 8th grade. I called them both last Friday and talked to them about their recollection of 9/11. Both remembered the day, where they were in school, but had no understanding of the context of the attack. What they did remember was the look of fear and pain they saw in all the adults' faces. That's how they realized what was taking place in front of their eyes was really a big deal. My daughter had 6 more years of public schooling from that day forward, and was never taught anything more about 9/11. I found that shocking. Essentially, more than a third of our nation has no personal recollection of watching Lower Manhattan crumble into flames, or the people being read the last rites on the lawn of the Pentagon, or the tears streaming down the anguished faces of families who set up the earliest memorials in a field in Pennsylvania. Time takes an unwelcome toll on things we thought we would collectively never forget. But Morris County will never forget. We remember. We recognize it is our duty to be here every year, and we must bring our youngest to join us. The attacks of 9/11 must not slip into the haze of our collective memories. Not if we want to prevent it from happening again. Not if we cherish our liberties and the society that continues to be a beacon for other free-thinking people, even if some seem to forget that from time to time. It's up to each of us to continue the vigil. It's up to each of us to not just utter the words, never forget, but to back up those words with action, just as we did 20 years ago today, the day after September 11th, 2001. Thank you, and God bless the United States of America. It's now my pleasure to call on Deputy Director Deb Smith.
Thank you, Director Shaw. And welcome everyone to our 9/11 20th Anniversary Remembrance Ceremony. And I know that Steve said, never forget, and I will add to that, never again. I have the honor tonight to introduce a special guest, a man who many of you know and who has joined us at this memorial in the past. John Filer is a Morris County native. He grew up in Boonton, and for the past 23 years, he has been a firefighter in New York City. He is a dedicated public servant, a mentor to many fellow firefighters, and he's considered a trusted friend to their families. In fact, John is considered a family member among the firefighters he serves with and those he has served with in the past. He also belongs to Engine 54, Ladder 4, Battalion 9. Outside of New York and New Jersey, most people would not immediately understand the significance of that. Fighters throughout America, however, they know. On the morning our Twin Towers were attacked by terrorists 20 years ago, 15 brave men working in the morning shift at Engine 54, Ladder 4, Battalion 9 in Midtown Manhattan rushed selflessly and dutifully to answer the call. While everyone was fleeing the carnage, the 15-member shift at Midtown rushed toward it to save lives. Sadly, they never returned. Some of us may remember it took days to reach most parts of Ground Zero after the attacks, and many more days to realize and assess our losses. We even held out hope that people were just trapped in the rubble and would be rescued. We also hoped others would be found in a hospital somewhere, but that was not to be. The New York Fire Department lost 343 firefighters that day, with the greatest toll suffered at the Midtown Manhattan Firehouse. We lost all 15 firefighters, the entire shift that responded that morning. That was John Filer's shift. They were his friends, colleagues, and extended family. He was supposed to be on duty that day, but in a twist of fate, he had switched shifts. To John, we know it was a bittersweet act of divine providence. However, we are fortunate to have someone like him among us, and I would like to thank him for joining us again today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to give you John Filer.
Thank you so much for those very, very kind words. If you don't mind, I'm going to be going off script here. My life is usually off script, so it's kind of normal for me. I am so honored to be here tonight and so proud of this county and this country. The firemen you see sitting behind here, I've gone to fire school with here when I was in Morris County. These are the finest people you could ever meet in your life. I got involved in the fire department at 16 years old. I was a first-generation firefighter, so I had no idea what the fire service was about. Once I got involved with the fire service, I started to get it. I think one of my very first fire engine rides was John Bonani was actually driving the fire engine. I was hooked. I had to be a part of the fire department because I saw what the teamwork and the camaraderie and the commitment was. That gave me the drive to want to join the New York City Fire Department. So a friend of mine, a fireman from Boonton named Don Vaninchek, said, you should go take the test. I took the test and I did very well. The written test, next part was the physical. Physical test was going to be a little more challenging. So I trained, like anyone would train. You walk the hills of Boonton with one daughter in the front pack and one daughter in the back pack. Outstanding. I got 100 on the physical test. Thanks, girls. The fire service is nothing like anyone could ever think of a job, because it's not a job, it's in your heart. You have to want to be able to put yourself above someone else. And there's not a lot of people that are really tuned into doing that. I always say it's a calling. I know it sounds cliche, but it is. It really is, comes from within. You can't say one day, oh, I'm going to be a fireman, and if it doesn't work out. You have to be able to say, listen, I came here today, and there's a building on fire across the street, and I am going to run into that while there's 100 people running out. That is extreme courage, something that it just comes out when it's needed. And you can be assured that all these people in these uniforms here would do that for you. And that is so important, because these guys are getting up 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, getting out of their beds. They're volunteers. They don't have to do it. They do it because it's in their hearts. They want to be out there. They want to be a presence. Firefighting is a dangerous, terrifying at times job. You don't know if you're going to come back. I was very fortunate that day. There was 343 of my brothers that weren't. But I could rest assured that every single one of them did their job to the utmost professionalism. They wanted to be there because their job was to save lives. And that's what we do. Whether you're a professional firefighter or whether you're a volunteer firefighter, you sign on to be involved. You don't sign on to take a bench seat. In my firehouse, we were hit really hard. 15 of our members were gone in an instant. What the worst part of it all was when the rest of us that responded down to the pile, we got there and we started looking for survivors, people we could help out, and looking for our brothers that we lost. There is no more humbling experience than to come back to the firehouse and see the widows and some of the children of the guys you work with that say, did you find my dad? Did you find my brother? And you have no answer. It brings you down to a new low part of your existence. But I could rest assured that we looked every day and every minute of every day. And we did what we could. We immediately started rebuilding the fire department after September 11th. And there was more than enough people that stepped up and wanted to become New York City firefighters. We were confronted with the fact that we had lost so much, and we had lost our upper level, we had lost our mid-level and our low level of everyone involved in the fire service. So how do you come back? You come back with determination and heart, and that's what we did. Now you fast forward a few years, and we first started seeing some of our legacies, which were brothers, sisters, children of people that we lost. Our first one in the firehouse was Stephen Regaglia, brother of Leonard Regaglia. He joined the fire department, and I can't tell you how excited I was when he came into our firehouse. Then a few years later, some of the children started coming in. And I remember when Carl got on the job. Wow, that was great. I first met the Asaros in the summer of 2001 at a company picnic. And when they came in, there was a lot of kids all at once. And they were all over everything. They were the best, total energy. Then, after Carl and his brother get on, and then Rebecca and her brother get on. You know, most of you here that have children, when you have your child do something, you smile. And you're like, you feel really good inside. When Rebecca walked in the firehouse, I was like the proudest parent in the world. To see these kids and brothers of our fallen come in, take that intestinal fortitude, that determination to get on the New York City Fire Department. Firefighting is an intensely physical job. You have to be in it for the win it. And there's just no way around it. Rebecca, as you could see, is a proud member of this fire department, along with her brothers. Her mother, Heloise, you've raised some just absolutely wonderful children. We thank you for giving them to us. I've asked some of the widows, I says, well, how do you feel about your children being firefighters? And they all say the same thing. I couldn't stop them if I tried, because that's what they wanted to do. Firefighting, again, like I said, is not an easy thing to do. It's very physical. And unfortunately, it's a male-dominated world right now. Things are changing. We're getting a lot more females involved, which is great, because they bring another dimension to the fire department. It's tough for anyone to get involved in a firehouse, because it is a rough and tumble place. Some people take to it right away, others take a little bit. From the day one that Rebecca walked in the firehouse, we knew that she was a keeper. She was the first one to get involved, whether it was in the sink, washing the rig, getting involved doing drills. Anything we asked of her, she did. She wasn't afraid to get dirty. And again, I just cannot tell you how proud I am and how proud everyone is of all these legacies that have joined the New York City Fire Department to face fear directly and confront the demons of having lost their parent, and to come back and make us all proud. And Rebecca, I know your father would be so immensely proud of you as much as I am and my brothers. So on behalf of all my brothers here, this is your new family besides all the rest of them you have. We love you. Thank you very much for being here. We are honored at your presence.
I'm wondering how I follow up with that. That was beautiful. Thank you, John. Good evening, everyone. First off, I'd like to thank the Morris County Board of County Commissioners for inviting me to speak today. My name is Rebecca Asaro, and I am a New York City firefighter, as are three of my brothers, Carl Jr., Matthew, and Mark. We all proudly followed in my father's footsteps, which led us to the greatest job in the world, filled with the greatest people as well. I want to thank John Fila and all the members of the Pride of Midtown 54 and 4 Battalion 9 for not only this opportunity to speak today, but also for influencing me and my everyday life. I started my FDNY career about 2 years ago, but have long had a family in this firehouse since I was a little girl. My father, Carl Asaro, began his journey with the fire department in 1987 and was a member of 54 and 4 his entire 14-year career. On the day he died, he was working in the 3rd Division as aide to Chief Galvin. I can't believe it's been 30 years without him, and since my world has changed forever. Time since had slowed down and sped up throughout different moments in my life. Every September 11th, I look back and reflect what my life could have been like. I wonder what my father would say about my brothers and myself becoming firefighters, sharing in some of his experiences. I think about how my dad would have turned 60 years old this October, and how he would have been married to my mom, Heloisa, for 32 years. I think about what a wonderful grandfather he would have been to his grandchildren, Isabella, Haley, and Philip Jr. There isn't one day where his presence is not missed. Birthdays, holidays, football games, and graduations, just to name a few events, have felt hollow in my father's absence. My father was an absolute character. He's always humming a song, mostly something by the Grateful Dead, and had such energetic and positive demeanor that was intoxicating to anyone in his presence. He had a smile that would light up an entire room, and a generous heart, always willing to give a stranger a helping hand. Anytime anyone that knew him tells a story, it consists of him making others laugh or just doing something to lift someone's spirit. One of my favorite memories of my dad involves his love and passion for music. He was talented, playing the guitar, saxophone, piano, and clarinet. After dinner, on many occasions, he would rehearse Grateful Dead songs with my brothers and I for hours. Some children had bedtime stories and lullabies, but the Asaro kids had Grateful Dead concerts. Every month, my father would bring a dozen roses home for my mother and I, saying we were his girls and I was his little miss. After working a long 24, he would come home and throw the football around with my brothers and the neighborhood kids. My father has been described as a big kid himself, and always was looking to have fun in everything he did. I'm pretty sure that's why him and my mother had so many kids, 6 to be exact. I was 9 years old during the events of September 11, 2001. My oldest brother, Chago, was 20. The twins, Carl Jr. and Philip, were 13. Matthew was 11. Mark was 7. I remember it like it was yesterday. Waking up to my father placing wintergreen Tic Tacs on my nightstand. He gave me a kiss goodbye and left from our Orange County, New York home to his Manhattan firehouse. Although the school day started out as it normally would, things started to shift in a way it would change my life forever. While I was in social studies class, children one by one began to be picked up by their parents with basically no explanation as to why. Soon thereafter, my mother arrived at school with my brothers to take me home. The ride home from school was one I'd not soon forget, as my worried mother told us, listen to the radio, as the news of the World Trade Center being attacked was broadcasted on what seemed like every station. Upon arriving home, we turned the television on, and the images of destruction we heard on the ride home were forever scorched in my memory. I didn't fully understand its impact at the time, seeing kids burning the American flag, along with the Twin Towers collapsing. I vaguely remembered my mom pacing back and forth in the living room frantically, trying to contact my father. We tried his firehouse and pager to no avail. The next morning, before school, we received a phone call from the fire department stating that no one had seen or heard from my father. and he was among the missing. Days quickly turned into weeks, awaiting any news, and yet there was still no word. I used to wait by the window for my father to come home. Instead, one day, a chief from the FDNY arrived to our house to explain to my mother that my dad was separated from him and he wished he had more information for us. During this time, early on, I just didn't know how to process what we were all feeling. In school, we were assigned to write an essay on 9/11 and the first responders who passed away. I wrote about the men and women who sacrificed their lives that day, not knowing that my father was among them. Time passed, and before I knew it, we were having a wake and a funeral for my father. It was October 27th, 2001, 3 days after my 10th birthday, that my mother would decide to have the service. I often give tours of the firehouse to visitors and proudly mention the stories of the men who served their city so bravely. I love walking to work and seeing my father's picture to my left as I enter the apparatus floor. It will forever be a reminder that his blood courses through me and that I can accomplish anything with dedication and heart. I am so thankful for the members at the firehouse, my godfather, my brothers, and my mom. They all helped me shape into who I am today. I am so proud not only to be a firefighter, but also a firefighting Asaro. If there's one thing to take away from my speech today, it would be to remember. Remember Michael Brennan, Samuel Otis, Joseph Angelini, Michael Hobb, Christopher Santora, Alan Feinberg, Leonard Regaglia, David Woolley, Jose Guadalupe, Michael Lynch, John Tipping, Paul Gill, Danielle O'Callaghan, Edward Garrity, and Carl Sarrow. Remember these men. Never miss a performance. Remember those who were lost and their valiant acts in their final moments on earth. Relive the moments that you hold dear and that made them unique individuals they are and always will be. Last but not least, recite their stories for others to know what it's like to truly live without fear. In remembering who they were and how they spent their time here, it will ensure that we will never forget the legacy and that they have forged into history. I am so proud to be working in the same firehouse that my father once worked and whose legacy is forever immortalized. They lost 15 members that day, the most of any firehouse in the city. It is said that you only truly die when your name is mentioned for the last time. If that is held to be true, then my father's legacy, among with all other heroes who sacrificed their lives that day, will live on forever. God bless you all, and God bless America. Thank you.
Now, we're going to ask Rebecca to stand for a moment. The Boonton Fire Department has a presentation. Carl, do you want to join us with your mother? The rest of your family can join us too, please. We are honored to have one of her brothers with us as well as Rebecca's mom.
Rebecca, on behalf of the Boonton Fire Department and all the first responders from Morris County, I'm pleased to present you with these flowers as a way to say thank you for sharing your experience with us today and a way to appreciate the fact that you've followed in your father's footsteps and you're now a member of our first responder family here in Morris County. Congratulations and thank you so much. We also have these wall hangings for you and your brother. And on it, here you go, thank you. It says, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything.
Thank you.
Here you go. Thanks for coming. John Philo, we got one for you too, bud.
Hello, everyone. I'm Commissioner Typhoon Selen, and thank you for joining us today. And I want to thank Rebecca. Your family story is inspiring. You and your brothers are living examples of strength and hope, and how everyday people overcome personal losses in life by moving forward to do greater good for the community around them. We admire you and your dedication, and we are truly fortunate to have you with us to mark this 20th anniversary of the remembrance. We have now reached the part of our annual ceremony where we share candles and light them before reading the names of the 64 people from Morris County who we lost on 9/11. Reading the names will be done by my commissioner colleagues, Thomas Mastrangelo and Douglas Cabana. Let's pass the candles around today as our string trio plays a very old melody. The lyrics are in your programs. Thank you.
Donald Leroy Adams, Margaret L. Benson, John Paul Bocci, Martin Borsinski, Dennis Buckley, Seal M. Kajukla, Liam Callahan,
David G. Carlone, James Leslie Crawford Jr., Joseph DeLuca, Captain Robert Edward Dolan, Antoinette Duger, Greg J. Froner, Elaine F. Gentile,
Deborah Lynn Fisher Gibbon, Paul Stewart Gilby, Gail R. Green, Eileen Marcia Greenstein, Gary Robert Haig, Timothy Robert Hughes, Anthony P. Infante Jr.,
Jason Kyle Jacobs, June Koo Kang, Lucille King, Angela R. Kite, Robin Blair Larkey, Thomas B. Lenahan Jr., Sean Patrick Lynch,
Simon Madison, Alfred Russell Mailer, Christian Hartwell Maltby, Hilda Marson, William J. Martin Jr., Philip W. Mastandrea Jr.,
William A. Matheson, Robert D. Matson, Patrick J. McGuire, Martin Paul Mickelstein, Seth Allen Morris, Peter C. Matus,
Alexander Napier Jr., Michael O'Brien, Michael John Pescherine, Thomas H. Polemus, David Allen James Rathke, Richard C. Rescorla,
Antonio Augusta Tome Roca, James Romito, Stephen Harris Rusin, Thomas Sabella, Maria Teresa Santillan, Matthew Carmen Salito,
Karen Lynn Seymour Dietrich, Barbara A. Shaw, Francis Joseph Skidmore Jr., Michael C. Sorisi, Thomas S. Strada, Edward W. Straub,
Kenneth J. Swinson, Dennis Gerard Taramina, William R. Testy, Peter Gaida Wallace, Matthew David Yarnell, Mark Zangarelli, Kenneth Albert Zellman.
everyone can extinguish their candles. The closing remarks will be given by Marine Corps veteran and County Commissioner John Krickus.
Please, everyone, be seated. I would like to introduce Loretta Viglione, who lost her son Tom, a firefighter, on 9/11, and has a poem she would like to share with us.
Good evening. I want to start by saying I have 2 sons, and one survived by the skin of his teeth. My youngest son decided to sit down, take a pen to paper, and just write this for everyone, for the world. Title is A Day Like No Other. A day we thought would be just another turned out to be a day like no other. We saw the horror with our very own eyes as we listened to our loved ones' desperate cries. Everything we thought of as our deepest, darkest fears became a true reality with the shed of our tears. Our minds were confused and our hearts filled with sorrow as we looked upon today and feared what would come tomorrow. The bravest and the finest knew exactly what to do. They sifted through the rubble, but they only found a few. The terrorists completed their mission by taking innocent lives away, but now they have to realize they have a hefty price to pay. This is by far the worst disaster we have ever known, but we stand together in this fight so no one is alone. We know it may take time before this ugly war has ended, but all the broken pieces will eventually be mended. In this time of remorse, we continue to stand tall and live with liberty and justice for all. There are many things left that we must carry out. But before anything's done, we must proudly shout, God bless America.
Thank you, Loretta, for sharing that with us. Thank you. On behalf of the Morris County Board of County Commissioners, I want to thank all of you for coming out this evening and thank everyone who's watching via live stream. I also want to thank everyone who had a part in today's observance. First of all, and most of all, and let's give them a hand, our first responders. I want to thank everyone who participated in the ceremony and those who prepared everything, especially Chris Walker and our County Building and Grounds team who maintained this great memorial. Thank you, Chris. To John Fila and Rebecca Asaro, a special thank you for making our 20th anniversary observation so memorable. Your participation brings significance to our ceremony. By sharing your losses and your lessons, we leave here today with a deeper understanding of what unfolded 20 years ago, what we can learn from it, and why it is so important to continue our vigil every year. We need to preserve these moments that you shared, very much in the same way Americans seek to preserve, through recorded testimonials, the stories of the greatest generation or Holocaust survivors, because over time, those who witnessed it will fade away. As the Greek author Aeschylus said, "He who learns must suffer, and even in our sleep, pain that cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart. And in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom to us by the grace of God." Our remembrance is now concluded. We invite you to take some time to reflect on our 9/11 memorial. God bless you all, and God bless America. Thank you.
Please clean